Hey everybody and welcome to the Bullshit Party. And in the video that I published about a month ago, I went through the top 5 vehicles that I won from the Lucky Wheel. So this is gonna serve as a spiritual successor to that one, and we're gonna discuss the top worst vehicles I've won from the Lucky Wheel. Spoiler alert, the Deluxo here isn't on this list, but it might be in my top 5 vehicles, so you might want to check that video out as well. And before we get started, if you like the content and you want to support the channel, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on the video. And if you're new, make sure you smash the subscribe button, and let's get started. And the first car we're gonna be talking about today is right here in this garage. As you can see, I have some cars here that have never been on the podium, so we're not gonna talk about those. And even though I'm menacingly approaching my pink GP1, we're not gonna be talking about that either. We are of course gonna be talking about the EC Classic, aka one of the worst cars I've ever won from the Lucky Wheel. But let's go over why that is. Something that I want to mention here is that all of the cars that are going to be featured today are fully upgraded. And as you can see, the EC Classic, and you'll see with the rest of them, they are also fully customized. One of the biggest problems I have with the EC Classic is that it's very difficult to control. That in part is due to the fact that it's front wheel drive. And having gone through the comments from the original video, I see that most people agree with me on that. It's not fun to drive, it's not really a looker this one, and it just completely misses the spot, at least for me. The only way this car is going to be able to redeem itself is if Rockstar releases a Mr. Bean DLC and allows you to drive the car from the roof. Now, on second thought, you know what? Even that's not gonna redeem it. It's just a bad car. And going to number 2, number 2, here we are at another one of my garages. And I'm sure you can already tell which vehicle we're going for here. Nope, not that one. That's right, we have the Sovereign. And for me to tell you why it's so bad, we need to go outside. First up, let's get the good things out of the way. Okay, now let's go over the things that I don't like about it. The first thing that I really don't like about it is that it's a bit too faithful to the original that it was inspired by. Harleys are big, hard to maneuver, stupid, loud, and they're supposed to be, they're fun that way. But that sadly does not translate to being fun in the game. Even though this bike has a very nice sound, it's missing a lot of key components to make it fun. One such a component is the ability to turn and make tight corners. And once again guys, I get it, they were faithful to the original. But driving this bike today brings me flashbacks to my original reaction to it. Just because something can be in the game doesn't mean it needs to be in the game. In my humble opinion, as cool as this one looks, it's one that should have been scrapped. And that's even without talking the limited customization it has and the even more limited practical use. And on to the next one. And this is actually the only existing footage that I have for this next one. If you didn't see at the top, of course I'm talking about the Xeon Classic, a car that I needed to scrap another car from my garage in order to have. And if memory serves me correct, and in this case it does, it was one of the most underpowered, oversteering, horrible looking cars I've ever driven in GTA Online. And just like with the other cars, this one is fully upgraded and fully customized. And having driven it for a while, I was really not happy with the way it was behaving. So this is probably the first time that I did something logical in GTA Online. I sold it. Oh, and that video ends with one of those, so make sure you subscribe if you're not yet a subscriber. And also like the video. And on to the next one. And as you can see, we're in a third garage. And this is actually a car that I haven't done a video on, just because this was before the time I made videos for them. No, it's not this one, it's the piece of junk in the corner. But bullshit, I hear you asking, viewer. You like classic cars. Why don't you like this one? I'll be happy to explain. It's true, I'm a sucker for old looking cars, and this one is no exception. I actually think the car looks quite nice. Sadly, the performance is just not there. And that, along with a couple of more problems that I'm gonna talk about in the next couple of minutes, is the reason that this car is in the top 5 worst cars that I've ever won from the Lucky Wheel. As I was saying in the beginning, the exterior, in my opinion, is very classic and very stylish. I really like it. But what I don't like is that you can barely customize it. The customization is basically locked at you changing the primary and secondary color of this vehicle. And if you're into classic cars, there are a lot of different, better options out there. And as far as the performance goes, this fully upgraded Roosevelt is just horrible. The steering is absolutely dreadful, and as you can see, it's barely responsive. This, just like the bike we spoke about a couple of minutes ago, is hurt by how accurate they try to make it to the real thing. There are other classic cars from the same era that have better performance and of course better customization options, because you can't really get any worse on that. To put it so everybody understands it, this car feels like a tank without having any of the benefit of it. Low mobility and no gunpowder? This isn't the bullshit way. And this car is still in my garage because I have totally forgotten about it. Otherwise it would have been replaced by one of the new Podium vehicles, because you know your boy wins the Podium car every single week. And if you're following me, so should you. But that in a nutshell is my experience with the Roosevelt. If this were a car released in 2020, I'm sure it would have been a different story. We would have had a lot of customization options and we would have had better performance. And with the Roosevelt done, there's only one vehicle left to talk about. And this is probably gonna be controversial because I've seen people really enjoy this one. So I'm probably gonna be in the minority with my opinions. And this is one that I haven't done a video on just because I started making videos after I won it. But let's talk about the Vagrant. First of all, let's go over practicality. This is a two-seater car. And that's not very practical, but it's acceptable. A lot of cars are two-seaters. What's not practical is that you're exposed basically the entire time you're riding it. So if someone around you was feeling trigger happy, there's nothing you can do about it. The other thing that I really don't like is that it's a rear-wheel drive car. For what essentially is a dune buggy, I was expecting something a little bit more 4x4-y. And covering the performance first on this one, it's nothing horrible, but it's nothing spectacular either. Once again, this one is also fully upgraded, and it works fairly well on the street like any other mid-tier street car. It corners, brakes, makes turns, basically some of the things that the Roosevelt can. But back to the Wagner. For something that should have been a very capable off-roading machine, this just isn't doing it for me. In my personal opinion, the best off-roading car in GTA Online at the moment is the Caracara 4x4. You get a lot of torque with it, you have height so you can cross small ponds and rivers, and most importantly, you have all-wheel drive, something this sad excuse for a car desperately needs. And moving on to the visuals and the customization options, the phrase "what you see is what you get" isn't more relevant in any other vehicle. The Vagrant has virtually zero customization options aside from the primary and secondary colors. Oh, how shameful, I almost forgot that you can change the rims. So in that case, never mind guys, I'm removing this one from the list. But in all seriousness, if you've been a viewer of mine, you know that I like to check how interactive a certain vehicle is. That basically means that I like to see what we can open on the car. And I'm sorry, but this is just sad. So with horrible performance, virtually no customization, and no interaction with the car, I believe that the Vagrant is one of the worst vehicles I've won from the Lucky Wheel. But I also want to know what you guys think. Do you agree with my list? Do you agree with all 5 of them? Do you have some changes that you want to make? Or maybe you just have a video idea for me to do in the future? Whatever the case is, leave your comment down below and let me know. And with that, it's time to end this one. Thank you so much to everybody who watched, hopefully you liked the video, and if you did, please consider leaving a like. If you're new, well, you know what to do, the subscribe button's right over there. And I'll catch you in the next one.